Hi everyone, Paul here again. I hope you've all had a good summer. Back with my first video for a while, which can only mean one thing, and that is that the National Hunt proper racing, as I like to call it, season is about to start. 27th September today. I always say the season properly starts at a meeting at Chepstow in the middle to early October. Which is only a few weeks away now, but there's been some decent action already. Reason I'm calling is just something I do for a bit of fun, which I did last season, which is give you my 10 to follow for the coming season. And also tell you about a few other different bits and bobs of services that I'm going to be offering. I'm actually going to have more time this season to put more videos potentially out there and spend more time on National Hunt Racing. So I'm basically announcing two new services that I'm doing. These won't be free ones because it takes time. But I'm not going to charge the world for what I'm doing. The first service I'm offering is I've had a lot of people saying, oh, I'm going to, I don't know, Balin Road races. Can you do your videos like you do for the festival for them? Or I'm going to, I don't know, even some crazy ones like Hereford in midweek, what you fancy type thing. So what I'm offering is basically a private video service for people who want to do it. So for example, if you're going to, let's say Chepstow, because it's the start of the season on the Saturday, on the Friday night, I will go through the card and do videos for each race, given the 1, 2, 3, like I do at the festival, and send them directly to you. For that, it will be just 10 quid, basically, and that will cover the time for me recording, uploading, going through the form, etc. and stuff like that. The other service I am offering, also at £10, I'm setting up a WhatsApp group. And what I'm going to do on there is using the voice recording you can do. On a Saturday, I'm going to give a review or like a bit of a overview of the main races, a bit like the videos, but in like a voice format, giving the 1, 2, 3, as always. And also in that is if there's anything that stands out or I hear any words like I often do during the week, I'll just drop everyone in the group a message to say, look, heard a thing for this horse, or I fancy this horse, I think it's overpriced. And yeah, it'll get messaged directly to you. If you're interested in any of those two services, just drop me a direct message through YouTube and we can get things rolling. But now, as I said, I'm going to do the 10 horses to follow for a bit of fun, as I did last season. Again, I've deliberately tried to avoid the big horses, the obvious horses that I could do. You know what I mean? You could go in there and say, oh, Altior. Oh, we could go and say, potentially, Thistlecrack. And all of these ones who seem pretty obvious. I've tried to go a bit off the beaten track where possible. I've also tried to only use one per main yard, because I could obviously give like 5 from Willie Mullins, etc., or 6 from Nicky Henderson's, but I'm trying not to do that. So, okay, horse number 1 I'm going to mention is actually from the Martin Keithley stable. It's a horse called Spice Girl, who I know everyone at the yard absolutely loves. Ran a decent debut bumper just under a year ago now, finishing midfield, but since then has gone from strength to strength, has actually got up a hat-trick in bumpers. So she really does have the world at her feet. Could potentially go hurdling, will be very good. A very good novice hurdler. Could stay on the bumper route if you want. But like with a lot of Martin Keithley horses, is quite often you will get a much bigger price than if it was trained by somebody else. Like you had a winner the other day, I was delighted to see Ballymountain Boy won at 4-1. If that was a Henderson or a Nichols horse, bearing in mind it won last time out, had everything in its favour, that probably would have been 6-4. So quite often you get some value with a Martin Keithley yard. Next horse trained in Ireland, I think it's by Cromwell, trained over in Ireland, and that is Jers Girl. Really good horse, in fact. JP McManus now owns her. I've watched back, and I've been watching a lot of the festival form back over the summer, and recently I've just watched the Mears race that she was in, and she fell not far from home, and I tell you what, she was going as well as any. Now, what I really liked was, a couple of days ago, she had a comeback run over 1 mile 3, I think it was, on the flat. Drifted like a barge, as the rumour was, you know, only not been back in for long. And she actually won that really, really well. So again, not one of the obvious yardsticks, but I think Jers Girl could be a very profitable horse to follow this winter. Next up, Diego de Charmille for Paul Nicholls. Very good hurdler. Won at the festival a couple of years back. Was pretty consistent last year without shooting the lights out. But it was, even though it was only a 2-horse race, I was really taken by the Chase debut a couple of days ago. It was a 2-horse Paul Nicholls race, but the way that horse jumped was absolutely superb. And this strikes me as the type of horse Paul Nicholls will keep over fences and suddenly find a lot of improvement in it.
So I like Diego de Charmille. From the Colin Tizard yard, West Approach was often compared to Thistlecrack because runs in the same colours. Wasn't a formidable winner, but ran really, really solid races, namely around Cheltenham as well, which is a big one for me. I've got a feeling this horse might go over fences this season. They tend to, they don't keep him over hurdles for long, the Tizards. But this horse strikes me as definitely a chasing type, and I think could be a very interesting horse. Another one who's likely to go chasing, and I've actually had a punt on this anti-post for the RSA today at 16-1, and that's Constantine Bay for Nicky Henderson. This horse came fourth in both the Cheltenham Festival and at Aintree. Aintree in particular was really unlucky, hampered by a faller, and I think this one's going to go chasing now, and it just strikes me as another like might bite type for Nicky Henderson, not a blazing front runner. In fact, it's usually the opposite, gets held up, but I think this horse will make a really good chaser. A bit of a wild card in here is Tombstone for Gordon Elliott. Gordon Elliott's obviously got an abundance of horses, but Tombstone last year had a shocking spring. I don't know what went wrong. There's a lot of rumours of different injuries, viruses, all sorts of stuff has been mooted. Nothing has actually come to light, but his early season form was absolutely brilliant. Now Tombstone's got the option, I think, of going over fences as well, and because I don't, but at the same extent, I think he is well handicapped over hurdles. But if they get him back to anything like the form he had up until the spring and the season before, Tombstone, I think, could have a very good season. I've got to pick one from the Mullins yard, and the horse I've actually gone with is a horse who I said I didn't fancy to win at the festival, and Julie didn't. And that was Melon. However, on only his second start, that was a cracking run, and again at Punchestown. It's going to keep coming on and on and on. I think Willie Mullins, because he's got a lot of young hurdlers and stuff, I've got a feeling he might send this one over fences. But whatever he does, Melon now is starting to grow, starting to mature, and I think he was always going to be more of a second season horse than a first season. So I think Melon is one to keep on the right side of. From the John Joe O'Neill team, More of That is an interesting horse. Had won a world hurdle, had a fair share of injuries, but last season was going really well in the Irish Gold Cup. At Leopardstown, and unseated the rider at the last, I think it was, when would have been bang there. Then went on to come sixth in the Gold Cup in a really solid run. The race wasn't probably suited to run More of That. The ground was possibly against him too. And he came sixth, and that was a really good run. Running the Grand National then, and pulled up 4 out, stopped very quickly. I don't know if it was a mixture of not staying 4.5 miles, or maybe the Gold Cup and the Irish race, because that was his third run basically in the course of about 10 weeks in big races. I don't know if that, kind of caught him out a bit. But dropping back in distance, still at staying, I think More of That could be very, very good. Interesting though, he loved the Grand National fences for me. I'd watched the race back, and I think maybe something like the Beecher Chase in December could be a very good race for More of That. One which isn't necessarily an outsider, but I think it's got every chance of having a good season is You Know What I Mean, Harry. Carried all before him until the festival. Came third, and at first I was disappointed with that at the festival, but watching it back, he didn't do a great deal wrong. I don't think he was 100% that day, but the ones he finished ahead of him have proven themselves to be very, very, very good horses. It could have just been the old adage of bit caught by one on the day. Nichols Canyon won that, and then he turned the form in a cracking finish at Punchestown on that You Know What I Mean, Harry. And that had been the end of a long, hard season. So I think Nichols Canyon was delivered to perfection in the World Hurdle. And You Know What I Mean, Harry was. But I think he'd recovered by then. And he'd had a lot harder season than Nichols Canyon had, in my opinion. So I think You Know What I Mean, Harry. Still some decent prices for like the World Hurdle again and other big races. He's one to keep on the right side of. The last one I've put in there, I've gone over to Ireland for it again. And that is Tully East, trained by Fleming. Won at the festival in the novices handicap listed chase, but this horse got better and better all season, and I think this season, I think he could go into the group races, and I think could potentially be a very, very good horse. So there are the 10. It's Spice Girl, Diego de Charmille, Jers Girl, West Approach, Constantine Bay, Tombstone, Melon, More of That, You Know What I Mean, Harry, and Tully East. Fingers crossed it's going to be a really good season. Some really big clashes I'm looking forward to. Hopefully we'll get to see Douvan Vialtior, and we'll see if Might Bite is the real deal. Can he go from novice to not?
we'll also have Coney Gree back, which is exciting. So let's see where we go. Now, as I said, if you're interested in joining the WhatsApp group or having any of the videos for any meetings you guys are going to, or just, you know, want a full card if you're following it on a Saturday, then yeah, drop me a direct message. As always, leave your comments, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye now.